Today we are going to learn about limiting reactant. Have you taken your breakfast? If not, let's prepare some sandwich as your breakfast. To prepare a sandwich, we need to prepare 2 slices of bread and 1 slice of cheese. If there are 6 slices of bread and 2 slices of cheese, then how many set of sandwich we can make? The answer is 2. Based on this diagram, we notice that cheese is the ingredient that not allow us to continue to make more sandwich. So it is the limiting reactant. And bread is the excess ingredient. There are 2 slices left over. Thus, it is the excess reactant. Hope you all enjoy your breakfast. Now, let's start our lesson to define limiting reactant and excess reactant. Limiting reactant is completely consumed in a reaction, like just now cheese, and limit the amount of product formed. Excess reactant is the reactant that is not completely consumed, like just now there are 2 slices of bread left over in a reaction and remain at the end of the reaction. Let's decide the limiting and excess reactant based on this equation. Find the limiting reactant and mass of excess reactant remain when 1.5 gram of calcium carbonate react with 0.73 gram of hydrochloric acid. For this kind of question, we must start with write a balanced equation. So for this case, we can write a balanced equation based on inspection method. So calcium carbonate react with hydrochloric acid, it will produce calcium chloride plus carbon dioxide and water. So always remember, we must balance it. Next, we need to calculate the given mole of each reactant in the reaction. First of all, we must identify the mass given by the question, which is 1.5 gram of calcium carbonate. Then we can find out the molar mass of calcium carbonate from the least constant. And then the answer is 0.01499 mole. Since this one not the final answer yet, we must leave it in 4 significant value and must write down the unit. We do the same thing for another reactant, which is hydrochloric acid. Then we use the balance equation that we get from part A to determine the mole ratio of reactant. From here we know that is 1 mole of calcium carbonate react with 2 mole of hydrochloric acid. Next, we need to compare given mole of reactant to mole ratio of balance equation. The mole ratio of balance equation is 1 mole of calcium carbonate react with 2 mole of hydrochloric acid. And then the given mole of reactant, we use calcium carbonate. Okay, by using stoichiometry calculation, we will get 0.02998 mole of hydrochloric acid is needed to react with 0.01499 mole of calcium carbonate. But based on the calculation in part B, the mole of hydrochloric acid given just 0.02 mole. Meaning that the number of mole of hydrochloric acid given is 0.02 mole, which is less than the number of mole of hydrochloric acid needed, which is 0.02998 mole hydrochloric acid that calculate from the stoichiometry calculation. So we have to make the conclusion HCl is the limiting reactant. After we successfy the limiting reactant, then we continue to find the mass of excess reactant. Excess reactant is the substance that left over after the reaction complete. So just now hydrochloric acid is the limiting reactant, automatically calcium carbonate is the excess reactant. Again, we must always compare the number of mole of excess reactant with the number of mole of limiting reactant. So based on the balance equation, 2 mole of hydrochloric acid is equivalent to 1 mole of calcium carbonate. So based on the number of mole of given by the question, 0.02 mole of hydrochloric acid, stoichiometric calculation, then we get 0.01 mole of calcium carbonate is reacted. Okay, so there are how many mole of calcium carbonate remain? Given is 0.01499 mole. So minus 0.01 mole of calcium carbonate that reacted. So the remaining of calcium carbonate is 0.0499 mole. Since the question wants the mass of excess reactant, so we must use the number of mole in remaining times the molar mass. So the answer is 0.4995 gram of calcium carbonate remain, or we can make it become 2 significant value since this is the final answer. Let's do some summary for the step involving in limiting reactant calculation. Step number 1, must write down the balance equation. Step number 2, calculate the given mole of each reactant in the reaction, unless the question gives you the hint which one is the limiting reactant or which one is the excess reactant. Step number 3, use the balance equation to determine the mole ratio of reactant used. This part is very important to determine the limiting reactant, so you must compare carefully. Step number 4, compare given mole of reactant to mole ratio of balance equation. Always remember we must compare with the number of mole of the limiting reactant before we start the calculation. And then step number 5, answer the question accordingly. Now, try to solve the limiting reactant question which involve the reaction between aluminium and iron oxide for the intermediate level. For the advanced level, try to solve the limiting reactant question to test your understanding. Good luck! If you have any question, please don't hesitate to consult with your chemistry lecturer. Thank you!